Okay, so let's just double check that the live stream is working fine and that we are capturing this session properly. Just 2 seconds. And it's all live, perfectly fine. Okay, so how are you doing at the moment since last time? What have you looked at? What have you? Let's start with questions or any sort of observations or new kind of things that you've learned since we last spoke.
Okay, so I actually haven't learned anything new much apart from the InVision. I tried to work on InVision and created few wireframes. Apart from that, I have worked on user journeys and user flows, which was pending from some time ago. So I worked on that today, and that's it. So it's like I'm feeling like it's going too fast, so I'm not able to cope up with everything.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
Okay.
what is happening with me.
Yeah, which is what I was kind of expecting it to be the case, right? And even though really, I mean, in some respects, we could say, we're only spending 2 hours a week, on average. Maybe on some weeks it's 3 hours, but 2 hours a week, but it's still quite a lot to digest through because each week we're covering sort of 2 topics or trying to cover 2 topics from that UX checklist. Yeah. And maybe you'd start now seeing how each topic is like is a lot to each topic, right?
Of course,
So imagine if we were doing this 9 to 5, full time, and then every evening you would be having also a general assembly. They call it homework, right? But it's like everyone hates the word homework since they were young. Yeah, there's quite a lot to learn, and quite not just learn, but also practically practice, yeah, and also then digest and mentally think through, right? So that's how UX design is, and that's why a lot of people specialize, whether they specialize in research or even visual design, or just prototyping or just interacting with stakeholders or doing some sort of design leadership or coaching and teaching. There's a lot to it, and in some respects, like UX design is like it's trying to be like someone like Roland Lamb, the CEO of Rolly, where I worked for 2 years. He described it as UX design is everything and nothing at the same time, right? So it's you can't really have anything without UX design, but it's very hard to explain what it really is that UX design is. Like when, like here, right now we're on this Hangout, and when it's working, you just don't think about the fact that we're connected and it's live streaming to YouTube in an unlisted video that only you can watch, and it's all free and it works for most part, that's UX. But when it doesn't work, then you're like, oh, this thing is rubbish, I hate it, la la la, and then there is no UX, but you hate it, right? And then you start noticing it. So it's kind of like people notice bad design, but they don't notice good design, and so it's a little bit of a tricky one to explain to people. If you're using a Mac, you're just like, it just works. So you're focusing on creating things and just doing stuff that you want to do with a laptop or whatever. And then when you're using Windows, you're constantly noticing that it doesn't work. And then it's like, well, I hate Bill Gates and I hate his family and I hate everyone that's called second name Gates, you know, and then it's like I just want a Mac, you know, and so that's really what UX design is. When you're not hating on something, chances are it's good.
So is visual designing includes coding? Is coding a part of visual design?
No, coding is coding. Visual design is just the look and feel of things. Well, really, the look of it.
Mm-hmm. So actually, from our last lesson, I got an idea about sketching and wireframing, but still I'm confused about prototyping.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't covered prototyping yet. For really in perfect world, for prototyping, we would want to do a lot more sketches and wireframes so that we can actually link through from page to page. Now, obviously, in this process, it's somewhat dependent. Things are somewhat dependent on how much you're able to cover in terms of, you know, in the project, and how much you're able to do in terms of the sketches and designs and wireframes and so on, right? So like some people, for example, some people have spent years of their life working in things like Photoshop or various kind of editing tools. You know, maybe someone was like a video editor or a photographer in the past, so they've used a lot of these kind of editing tools and sketch tools and all that kind of stuff. And you know, once you're familiar with one or two of them, then you sort of easily adapt to pretty much everything else, because they're all kind of designed in a similar way. But some people are not so familiar with it. So like, for example, at General Assembly, we had some people were really able to jump into things like Sketch and Axure and so on, and some other people we just had to take a lot more time to learn that. And it's very tricky to know who's going to be how, right? So you know, you at the end of the day, like, people have to put some time into learning things. And that's that.
Is there any way or any place where I can first, because before starting wireframing, you need to know the components, right? What you are doing, what are icons, what are badges. I know basic because I used to do basic wireframing, but now when I was doing in InVision, so I think first I need to learn the basics of the wireframing. What are the components? What are the elements? What we call each particular item we do. So I think first, before jumping into anything big, I need to learn the basics first.
Well, I mean, the basics is what we covered in the last session, which is just really with simple square or a rectangle, and a triangle and a circle, right? And the pieces of text. That's really all that a wireframe is made out of. Anything more than that is becoming either a visual design, or you know, you're effectively spending too much time thinking about details, rather than the kind of the structure and the architecture of the thing.
Okay.
That's why I really want to focus a lot more on the information architecture.
That's what I need to. And I want to know, like, what where we have to keep our focus on. So I don't want to go beyond that.
Yeah, so I mean, like I say, everything that I showed you last time in the wireframing session, that's all you need for now, and really for long time. If ever you don't need anything more, like I say, it's really about laying out the like I said before, like if you sketch something out in detail, then wireframing it, all it is just kind of making it neater, right? That's really all it is.
Just,
and that's why
instead of text, I can write, for example, lorem ipsum if I don't have anything to write, right?
Yeah, you can do that, but that's something that we used to do back 20 years ago, and
Okay.
it's a bad practice, really, in a
Okay.
sense, because that's kind of like lazy design, because you haven't really thought through as to what is the content going to be there. So you would see like that's a kind of like a hang up from visual design. Visual designers would be like, oh, let's just put some text here and put some text there and put some text there, and all they make it look really pretty. And then when you start getting into details, it's like, what text is going to go here? Who's going to write that? Who's going to edit that? Who's going to update that? What if it changes? We don't even know what to write, and all that kind of stuff. And then when you get a little bit, you scratch a little bit beyond the surface, and you realize all of that is bullshit. Yeah. So I would strongly discourage you from ever putting in lorem ipsum into your wireframe. It's better to not put anything, or put like a big like a question mark. What goes here? And like, if you're having to put a question mark in your wireframe, it just means you don't know what needs to be put in there. So you need to go back a step to work it out, right? And it's much better to not put anything than to put lorem ipsum.
Okay.
That's why I didn't show it. If I didn't show it, it means you didn't need to do it. Okay.
Okay.
If I showed you, oh, I'm just gonna put some lorem ipsum here, then you can do that. But I didn't show you that. In fact, I specifically said you need to really think about every single word you want to put on there, because if you can't think of words for yourself, right? And it could be bad language. It's like I'm terrible at writing language on a page, but at least I can have a go. I said, like, well, I want to describe what this lesson is about. So it's like 2 lines of text that say wireframing is about creating simple pictures with squares. It's simple, it's fast, and you need to do your sketching beforehand. Okay, that's my text there. Now, some other sort of professional editor might write that in a much better way, but I'm saying it needs to be maximum 2 short sentences and something to do with the description of the lesson. Okay, and it's there because otherwise the user doesn't know what the lesson's about. And it's short because the user won't read anything more than 2 sentences. Okay, and that's that. So that's my reasoning. Now, someone else you might test that with the users, and they're like, nobody reads it, even that stuff. And you're like, well, maybe that's not necessary. Maybe you just need a descriptive title, or maybe you don't even need a title. You just need that in the actual cover slide for the video, because before you play the video, it has like that first sort of first cover sort of image that comes up first. Maybe that's all you put all of that there, and then you don't need a title and description. However, there is a need for that, not so much for the user to read, but for the Google search engine to index, and so on. So it's kind of just best practices of web page design, and also when it comes to things like accessibility and so on, which we'll cover going forward. There is also need for making it accessible, because not everyone can read things on the picture. They need to have it in the page so that things like screen readers can get to it and read it out loud to people. Okay. So because not everyone can actually see, some of the users are blind or visually impaired and so on. So these are kind of some of the considerations that come in really in this communicate section that we want to cover today. Well, we want to focus.
Some have already implemented that. I think I heard it 2-3 days back on some website. So the content was there, but the machine was reading, the system was reading it for us. So we were just able to hear that, and the system was reading the content, what was written on the page.
Yeah. So accessibility is actually a legal requirement in UK and in developed countries. Why? Because of the discrimination laws and anti-discrimination laws. Right? So when you're working on government projects, one of my first ever jobs was accessibility consultant, and I was working on like Greenwich Borough Council website and so on. So there are accessibility guidelines that every government department has to abide by, and there's like single A, double A, triple A. Triple A being the highest one, double A what most people like aim for, and single A being an absolute necessity to meet. And so so that's also the reason why you put title and description, because that's so just best practice web page guidelines. Like a title is H1 title in a web page, which is top level heading, and then description is kind of like a little description of the page. And so those are kind of just bog standard requirements for a page, you know, and it's like I barely even think about in terms of whether I should or shouldn't include it. It's just a bare necessity, because otherwise you don't know what this is about. What other questions do you have?
No.
Okay, so today I want to skip prototyping because we haven't got enough pages to work on linking up yet, and I think for prototyping to really make any sense, you would need to create a few pages to be able to link up into a prototype, yeah, and then really be able to test that with users. So for example, you know, some of these people in, for example, Facebook group, or even with your husband and, you know, a friend, or even with your son, you know, like, how old is he again?
3 years old.
3 years old. This is perfect for because they won't lie. They don't know, even up to late ages 6, 7. They don't know how to lie. So if you ask them, what is this, they'll just go like, I don't know, I don't care. And then that's the best thing, you know, because then you get real truth. Otherwise, people lie all day long, and then, you know, it's just, they're like, yeah, that's really nice, I like it, like, and what they're saying is rubbish, is nonsense. They're just saying it to be nice and polite to you, but in reality they're like, I don't care, but I'm going to tell you, I like it, it's nice, well done, blah, blah. You know, it's like a politeness culture. So that's why, you know, we have to be very careful as well of like listening to people, because people lie, and people also don't really know what they like. You know, once it's like, I might like something, like you go into a shop. This is an important thing to know and remember. You go into a shop and there's a whole bunch of things you theoretically like in there, but then it's like, what are you actually gonna buy? You end up buying something completely different. Why? Because the thing that you bought is what you really liked. All these other things that you said, oh, I like that, it's like, yeah, you kind of like it, but you don't like it enough, right, to commit your money to and to really want to use it. Yeah. And so this is why it's important not to feature load things, because people, for most part, they don't like things, you know, like you present them with 100 ideas, 90 of them they will just not even blink at. They're just like, don't care. And then the ones that they say they like, they don't really like enough, and there's going to be 1 or 2 that they're like, wow, that's amazing, I want that. And then that's the thing that you should be really then designing and implementing and committing time and effort to, and then making that perfect. You know, it's like there is something to be said about perfection, you know, where like most people tell you like nobody's perfect, nothing is perfect, blah blah blah. All that stuff is just like limiting beliefs, and you know, what people kind of put onto themselves as a sort of an excuse not to go for excellence, right? Whereas great designers will look at 100 ideas and they'll go, no, 80 times, and then 20 things they'll go, no, no, and then narrow down to like 5 things, and then those 5 things they'll design perfectly. Yeah. And that's how you get great design. you know. And never get wedded. I'm looking at my wedding ring. Never get wedded to an idea, right? Because it's just like, as a designer, you can come up with like 100,000 ideas, and now of those 100,000 ideas, 90,999 are rubbish, and that's fine. That's fine, you know. But the ones that are not rubbish, you should be able to design up to perfection. And what is perfection? It's kind of like Apple, it's Airbnb, it's Facebook, it's all these kind of sites and software that works really well. You know, Google Hangouts is okay. It's not perfect, right? But it works. It's okay. It's like, it's free, you know. If would you pay for this? Of course not. But for free, yeah, fine, we'll use that. Yeah. You know, that's why it's free, because it's not good enough to be paid for, right? So, and that's the truth of the matter, you know. So today, what I want to focus is, are there any other questions? Because, you know, questions are important. We said it's important to know how to ask questions, you know.
Not today. No.
Okay, so let's focus today on actually talking about information architecture. Now, information architecture is a very, very, very important aspect of design in general. Okay, so what I'm got open here is a tool called XMind. Please make a note of that. XMind is a free mind mapping tool. Okay, and have you come across mind mapping before, or a concept of mind maps? Okay, cool. Well, so what mind maps are, they are representations, theoretically at least, theoretic representations of how human mind works and thinks. Okay, so let's just do this by doing something practical. So I've got XMind is open here, and I just kind of chosen this one type of mind map, and I'm going to go for this business one. Let's say business one. Okay, and what we're going to set up here as the main topic. So this is what it says here, central topic. We're going to say UX coach. Okay, that's our central topic. Now, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say UX coach?
It's related to something UX trainer, UX coaching.
Okay, UX trainer. What has a UX trainer got?
Who trains people in regards to UX design.
Mm-hmm. What else has a UX trainer got?
Trains people. Create videos on UX.
Mm-hmm. What else?
Write blogs on UX.
What else is UX coach about?
UX coach is about online UX training to people who wants to learn UX, about UX design, especially beginners. So they might be students or career switchers.
You see what I'm doing here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kind of content does UX coach? So there's a content, right? That there is. So what is the content?
Video.
What? Okay, so there's the formats. Okay, formats, which is video, mainly video, but let's say there is also articles.
Yeah.
Blogs. So video can be
About the course.
Let's say video can be in-house produced, yeah,
or third party.
Yeah. Then the content is what? Courses, right? And what are courses made out of?
Courses made out of in the are you talking about backend or
So what courses are made out of what?
okay, UX design beginner course, UX wireframing course.
So those are types of courses, but what is each course? What makes up a course? A lesson, right? So got lessons. And what did we say lessons are made up of?
Topics related to UX or wireframing.
That's an attribute of a lesson.
Okay.
But each lesson is made out of segments. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got the content of UX coach content is a bunch of courses about UX design, which are made up of lessons, which are made up of segments. Yeah. And so courses, so we can say types, right? So you could say lessons also have types. What kind of type of lesson could it be? Could be practical. Yeah.
And theoretical.
Theoretical. Could be
question and answers.
Q&A. Could be interactive. Slightly different from Q&A, where the Q&A would just be sort of questions and answers. Interactive would be something like, let's build something together.
Yeah.
Could be sort of demonstration. Could be a sort of pitch session. Could be a community lesson or something like that. And then, so you could say lessons maybe also have difficulty. Yeah. Easy, medium, hard, expert, master. Yeah. Then you could say lessons also have, actually, let's just say here what we're going to do. So in mind maps, you also have you have like lessons. You see here what I can do is connection, lessons, have, yeah, this is a relationship, have UX trainer. Okay, so they go like, oh, lessons have, or you can actually be more specific here, are taught by UX trainer. Okay, and then here it's like, what do? They train people, create videos, write blogs, answer questions, demonstrate skills, They also coach students. Coach. Now watch this. Coach. Now here, where is it?
We have already written trains people, so coach and trains are like the same thing.
Well, so slightly trains is different to coaching. Okay, but so here, coach for people. Yeah, coaches. Let's just say 2 people. Coach 2 people. So here, online training people, students. Yeah. Also here, we can connect this with this as well. Trains, train. Remove this too. So what this mind map, you see what we've done now. Yeah, we're basically plotting out various things that, so there's people. I just sort of generally actually it's set up a new blob here. So this is things to consider. Okay. There is a, have you ever come across ITIL? ITIL.
No.
ITIL is like a international, I don't know what exactly it stands for, but it's like a standard for IT architectural practice, architecting IT systems. But one of the things that exists in ITIL is this framework called PPIT, okay, which stands for People, Process, Information, Technology. And so so these are the things to consider. These, so you can, what you can do in here is you can also group these things, right? Yeah. So you can say really important. These things are really important. So people, process, information, and technology. That's what we need to consider when we're plotting out information architecture of a website or a system, right? So mind maps are useful for all these kind of things. So UX trainer is a people thing. I can add that as a label, right? So this is the people consideration. Oops, where's the label? Label. Add notes. People. I need to add it as a label. Comment hyperlink. Label. Yeah. F3. People. I'll remove this notes thing. So online training is I can do F3. How do you do F3 on Mac? Oops, press the wrong thing. Control, is it Control F3? No. Function. Yeah. So online training is kind of a process. Yeah. Content is information. Yeah. And then what are we missing here? People, process, information, and technology. Okay, so this is technology is the platform in our case. Okay, so has a bunch of web pages, right? What does it have? Authentication. Has
mobile
progress sort of indicator of some sort, as in how you're progressing through lessons. It needs to be cross-platform, cross device compliant.
So what is progress indicator here? How will it shows the progress?
So you know, the thing that I was sketching through, like, you know, how far you're gone through the course. Yeah.
Okay.
So we can actually we can actually say that there's a connection. Yeah.
So it's like
Indicates,
when we start the course, and wherever we stop, it will indicate like 10% is completed, 50% is completed. Is it that sort of indicator?
yes. Yeah. And so do you see how this map, right, is very rich way of showing correlations and structures of things, right? So that we can plot out. Also has, what else has it got? Payment capability. Yeah. This again, you can cross connect to, like, payment capability enables paying for courses. Yeah. Platform has some sort of profile management. Yeah. And what's that for? It's for, where are they? People, right? Keeps information about people, right? So this gets a little bit messy after a while, because more you plot in, more it kind of becomes a bit, you know, cross lines start crossing and so on.
Why do we need it if after some time it's all jumbles up and we'll not be able to understand anything?
Because it's about being able to, first of all, quickly get out of your head, you know, things that really are important here, and it gives us a more of a kind of holistic picture of the things that are really important. But it also shows the structure and architecture of things. So I can, for example, I could close this off and say, well, actually, let's just look at the content. Okay. So really what I want to focus in on the content of this thing, and say, let's actually say, for example, so there is what else has a course got? Curriculum. Yeah, misspelled that. Okay, what is curriculum made out of? Lesson
Topic.
Plan, sort of lesson plan. Teachers for each lesson, required tools, expectations from students, right? Those kind of things. Okay. Course types are like introductory, specializing, let's call it for now, bad word, intermediate, mastery, courage. I'm looking for one word. Transformation, let's call it for now. But what I mean is like
It's like beginners,
transferring.
intermediate, and advanced. These are the courses, right?
Well, I'm thinking of like, you know, there is courses. Yes, there's like introductory, intermediate, mastery. That's based on sort of level, yeah,
Okay.
of intensity. But then there is also kind of specificity. Okay. Because you know, someone who wants to specialize, let's say in wireframing, you know, wants to just do a course about special course about wireframing, or someone who's transferring from a certain type of area of, you could say like, you know, UX course for graphics designers who want to become UX designers, right? Those graphics designers will already know quite a lot of graphics tools. So you don't want to teach them things like InVision Studio because they already know how to use that. What they don't know is how does graphics design differ to UX design, you know, and they have a whole bunch of preconceived ideas about what this thing is. And it's like breaking them out of that, you know, and saying, forget what you know because it's all rubbish, you know. And you actually need to sort of forget certain things so that you can learn new things. Because actually, it's much harder to teach a graphics designer UX design than it is to teach a lawyer UX design.
Because they know nothing.
Graphics designers just have a whole bunch of preconceived notions of what design is. And for them, design is a lot about how things look, and actually design is how things work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just close the door of the kitchen, but think of some more things what we can add here. And yeah, just 30 seconds, I'm back. So any other things that came to mind?
The prerequisites of the course.
And okay, let's put that in.
And are we considering the reviews and ratings by the students? The price, course price, and course duration.
Yeah. So you see how this can go very sort of granular, and here you can effectively map out the structures and architectures of how things are organized, right? Including down to, for example, if we say introductory, and here we go, I'm just going to remove this level thing, but let's say UX introduction to UX design. Okay, that's the course. Now we can actually get into this now becomes the information architecture piece here, in terms of literally the information architecture of this course. Now we said there's the other thing that courses also have is sort of like there's lessons, but really before lessons there is a kind of theme, remember? So what I can do here on mind maps is that I can drag around and just sort of put things into different subcategories. So there's a course and there's like a theme of remember on our UX checklist, there was the theme of research, plan, explore, right? So so here, when I'm going back to where it was introduction to UX design, okay, so I can now start plotting this out in terms of theme 1. So first of all, it's actually research. So I'm following this structure here: theme, lesson, segment. Yeah. So you can say research, lesson will be the first thing in research is competitive analysis, data analysis, user feedback. So I'm going to plot that out. Competitive analysis, data analysis,
user feedback.
Yeah. And then, so what's there then? It's within each one of those, there would be a segment. So competitive analysis has basically like so each one of these is a lesson, right? So this is the theme. Actually, just for the sake of it, we're going to add a little bit of a label. So theme, and then this is a lesson, and then this is segment. Okay, so what's the segment? First thing is intro. Now, each segment has what? Also duration, name, yeah? So name, duration, description, potentially, yeah? Maybe not so much description, just title, okay? There's a kind of like, because these things will be done in lesson, so lesson also has a format, which is video or article, right? So it actually, we might as well just, since we've got format, where was the format here? There was in online training, okay? UX trainer. Just had the, formats. Okay, so instead of rewriting this here, I'm just going to cross-link it to these formats here. Boom. Okay. Formats are, okay, so format is, so it can be any one of these formats here. Yeah. Video, article, blog, let's just call it like Q&A, audio. Text. So that comes under article, audio. Now it's also like important to keep it consistent. So it's video, article, blog. Blog is a kind of article, so I'm going to delete that.
That's what I
Q&A is well, actually, let's say here. So article is like, we're going to call it formal article, transcript,
yeah,
blog, and then Q&A. So these are like subtypes of article, yeah. Okay. And then there's audio kind of. There's going to be like, so podcast, interview, narrated lesson, yeah. Podcast is just like chit chat, interview, conversation with another designer, yeah. Narrated lesson, read out pre-written script, yeah. Or like Q&A. Q&A, what's that? That's answering questions from students. Yeah? So video, in-house produced, third party, in-house produced. So that's kind of formats.
So can we also have video formats also? Like are they going to be in Flash player or in some other player?
So we're just gonna stick to YouTube as our delivery method.
Okay.
So, I mean, Flash is like HTML5, all of this now. So that's formats, right? But so each lesson has a format. It could be delivered in any one of those kind of types. But let's say, I mean, for most part, we're going to be doing video. But then, you know, after we do a video, there's going to be easy to deliver a kind of written up article and so on. But so segments have duration, but lessons also have title, duration, instructor. Now instructor has a name, surname, profile, picture. Yeah. Do you see how this builds up, right?
Yeah.
And there's more and more and more things and information, right, that we're plotting out. Experience.
So at what stage we do this? At what stage of the project we do information that mind map, that information make architecture?
You can do this at any stage of the project, really. What I usually have is like one big mind map that I have for a project. I just keep plotting things out, you know, and sort of use it as a way to organize my thoughts, right? And so if I'm having to you know, show it to other people, then I can show them what I've really thought through and how deep some of these things go. So, you know, like when it comes to, you know, like even just on this kind of thing, you can see that, for example, this sort of thing around UX trainer is much shallower than the content. Look how content is already going really deep. Yeah. So we've thought a lot about the content and including the formats and all that kind of stuff, right? But in terms of online training, right, and all this kind of stuff, this is a lot more shallower, and it's sort of platform and so on. So, but it's also because we're focusing here on information architecture, and I want to really look into the content, right, a lot more, and really consider, you know, what is the, you know, what is the overall information architecture of this first course, which is the introduction to UX design. You know, these other ones, you know, are to come in future. This is the kind of main focus. Yeah. So if I was to just continue, since, you know, this session is about information architecture, and obviously all this stuff I'm going to share on the folder for us. But let's say, you know, just to complete this process, I'm going to plot out the rest of these. So plan has got plan has got user stories inside it. Can you read it out for me?
User flows.
Sorry, user stories. What's after that?
User stories, user flows.
Huh?
Red roots.
Okay.
Yeah, these three things. And then the next thing is explore.
Explore. What's in there?
Brainstorm and sketch.
So this is a form of brainstorming as well, right? Brainstorm, sketch.
Wireframing.
So brainstorm and sketch is one same thing, yeah?
Yeah.
Brainstorm and sketch.
Wireframes.
Wireframes.
Prototype.
Okay. Then next one is communicate, right?
Yeah, communicate. Then IA, information architecture.
That's information architecture, which is what we're doing here.
Okay. Language.
Now, we're also doing that here because as we're writing words down, we're defining the language that we're using. Okay, so for example, this segments thing is a language that we've chosen. Right?
Okay. There's like, okay. So I thought the language is like the coding language or something.
No. It's actually the language that we use to describe things, you know, on pages and in the system and so on.
Okay. Accessibility.
Yeah. We touched upon this just now. What's the next one? What's the next section?
So there's a heart. So I think this is the part of communicate.
Heart is ethics. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So what's the one
Ethics
in that?
is sustainable, ethical, ethical, inclusive.
Okay. What's the
Then
next thing?
create. UI elements, gestures, responsiveness.
Touched upon responsiveness a little bit. Remember when I was speaking about things working on mobile, tablet, and desktop?
Yes, the responsive architecture, like it should work same on all the platform.
Exactly. What's the next one after create?
Give feedback, waiting times, errors, completed actions.
Okay. Next
Finalize.
one.
Finalize layout, use of images and icons, font and colors hierarchy, microcopy. Oh, sorry, delight. Sorry. Under delight is microcopy, micro interactions, transitions. And the last one is analyze, KPI setup, uh, okay, A/B test plan, and test.
Okay. So that's kind of the notional overall structure of the course. Now imagine now in each one of these there would be like an intro, okay, and then so that's introduction. So each one of these lessons should have a structure like introduction, such as like expected outcomes, okay, structure, then definition, okay, what is competitive analysis? So I'll write that down. What is competitive analysis? Example, how to do it, yeah. Demonstration, yeah. Review, or what's the word I'm going to summary, review, as in have we covered the expected outcomes? Then the thing there is as like a task for the user to do, for the student to do.
Assignment.
Call to action, ask questions and post comments, stuff like that. And maybe like next session, I'll put a question mark to that. Introduce what next will be covered. Although this is probably a bad thing because it's kind of tying too much to the next thing. I don't think this is a good idea, because if we want to use this as a kind of way to kind of mix and match for other courses, then that's a bad thing to be talking about. Yeah. Those kind of interconnectivities or interconnections should be done through the actual platform as opposed to in the content itself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So example. So I think it's example is, so it's like how to do it is show with a practical subject matter, yeah, practical topic.
Case study.
Okay. Yeah. Demonstration is do it for the topic. Okay. But example, show another one from other topics. Why is that important? Because you don't want to just show one thing. You want to show other examples. Summary is the most important things to remember. That kind of stuff. Review, have we covered? So this is like how we are going to what makes up this lesson. Things you will learn in this lesson. What makes up this lesson? How we will cover this lesson. Yeah? What is this lesson? How to do it, demonstration. Yeah. And so each one of these segments, as we said, has its starting and end point. So if I go back to here, lessons, segments, duration. So there's also start, end. So start time, end time. Okay, so what these things here are, there are segments. Okay, so there'll be like introduction starts at 0 to like 30 seconds. Then expected outcome starts from 31 seconds to 60 seconds. Structure starts from 60 seconds to 90 seconds, right? And so that we can link underneath each lesson, right, to like links to where the new segment begins, right? And so also each segment has a picture, okay, for it, so that we can build out those little, cards, from the sketches that we did. Remember?
Pictures of sketches.
Pictures of segments, so that in the sketches we did for a lesson.
Got it.
Yeah. There's the segments bit. So, but that segments needs a picture, start time, end time. So, because that will create the link to where it is, little title and duration. So I think it's important to say that that segment takes 30 seconds or whatever, right?
Okay.
And so lesson should probably last about kind of 10, 15 minutes, really, maximum 10 minutes. Yeah. So, but you see now how this is, I mean, I'm in these sessions that we're doing, you know, I'm basically following more or less loosely this structure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I want to kind of, in this session that we're doing, which is a lesson, right? So we've gone through introduction, what we're going to do, information architecture. I didn't quite cover the expected outcomes, but basically it's to show you how information architecture works. Structure is we're going to do it. I sort of tend to skip on these things because most people are like doze off for this, right? Because they're like, just let's learn it, right? So definition, yeah, it's just like I want to get on with it. The definition is really what is information architecture, rather than again defining it, because again people doze off. I just go straight into how to do it, right? So that you kind of have to look, because otherwise you just kind of fall asleep. Yeah, how to do it is really this is it. Yeah, Xmind, free tool, works fine, you don't need to pay for it. Demonstration, so I went straight from introduction to how to do it in demonstration. Example, I built it out for you, now I'm summarizing. Okay, so this is the way we do things. Okay, that I showed it to you, you kind of lived through it and you participated. And the review, you know, what have we covered? You know, information architecture is basically the architecture of information, literally what it says on the tin. It's called IA, and I always confuse it with AI. AI is artificial intelligence, IA is information architecture. Also, you can become a qualified information architect. Okay, so that's like something that there is a formal qualification for. And what I would give you as a task to do going forward is to really look at this mind map and potentially also add things to it, you know, or, you know, ask any questions, maybe post up questions against any one of these things. And so post it as a, you can, if you right click, you can post comments in there. You know, so comment and then just say like, what is this all about? You know, add comment, and then I can look at those and answer them there.
I'm just thinking what I would never be able to become information architect. It's just a lot of thinking about writing.
Well, so it's something that you either love or hate, generally speaking, and like there's actually huge money to be made in information architecture, but you really have to care and love the structures of things and how things are architected, you know? Because otherwise you will kind of really hate it, and nobody wants to hate things. So this is part of communicate, and yeah, so I'll put it into UX Coach. So yeah, I've just saved this mind map, so you can open that when you download Xmind. Open it, have a little browse around, and see what it is. What I'm probably going to do is for this introduction to UX design, I'm probably going to change some of these terms. So like this thing, like I'm probably just going to change this to not give feedback, because I don't like the fact that it's, you know, it's got research, plan, explore, communicate. It's all one word, and then give feedback is 2 words. I don't like that. But I know why he's done that is because it's like all of these are verbs, right? So this is like ethics is not a verb, but let's just call that love. Care. Let's just call it care. Love is a bit corny. Care. Create feedback. Feedback can be a verb. Finalize, delight, analyze. Okay, so all these things are verbs here, and then these things underneath here are sort of descriptive titles, competitive analysis data, like user flows, red routes. So they're all kind of noun phrases, okay? So what I don't like about this sort of sustainable, ethical, inclusive is that they're not noun phrases. They're more sort of adverbs and so on, right? Anyway, so yeah, that's really where we're at with this. Questions?
I have to look at it again. This is all.
But questions about information architecture. I mean, this is super like light touch, you know, thing in terms of looking at information architecture. That's a huge topic to look into, and it can get very specific for different domains, you know. So if you're working in banking sector, there's all this kind of abstract concepts like futures, right? What is futures, or mortgages and loans and all these kind of things, right? Insurance, and yeah, this kind of like non-typical things. So, you know, each industry has its own domain that is kind of specific to what it is. So, you know, that can get very deep and very specific. And then the language and choice of words is very important.
What is the percentage this IA is associated with UX design?
Well, it's you have to understand the structure of things. There's the other aspect, actually it's important aspect of information architecture is the actual sitemap, okay, which we didn't kind of look at here, but I'll cover that in the lesson part. The sitemap is really kind of like, you know, where you got like the home page, and then underneath that, there's like a course page. And then from the course, there's the lesson page. And, you know, so that it's really like this kind of tree of how to get there. So then there's like, you know, how do you get to the segment of a course? You have to go from probably a home page, then log in, then course, then lesson, then segment, right? So that's all kind of baked into that. And so for each one of those little tree, you might have a whole page for that, right? Or certainly like a component, right? You'll have like a segment component, you'll have a lesson component, you'll have a course component. And as you drill into that, it like opens up into a new world of browsing that course, or browsing that lesson, or browsing that segment, and so on. Yeah. So that's why that's important. Like for each one of those leaves of the tree, we can then include like a little sketch, right? So what does a segment look like? Include a sketch of the segment, or a little wireframe piece. What does the course component look like? Include a sketch of that, put in. So you can actually create a whole like mind map of these little sketch bits and bobs, so that people go, okay, so that's how we're going to show a course, or that's how we're going to show a segment, that's how we're going to show user profile, that's how, you know. So actually the entire system is built out of these people, processes, information, and technology. Yeah.
Okay.
And that really applies, the power of this is that applies to absolutely any project you ever work on, whether you end up in a bank, in an education sector, in defense industry, in gambling, in e-commerce, anywhere. It's always like that, right? And that's why we learn it. That's why it's powerful to know this, because even if you're, let's say, you're redecorating your house, right, which is one of the things that your husband mentioned, you know, you're into, you know, it's like, what has a house got inside? It's got rooms, and what's each room got? A wall, and what's on the wall? Pictures and decorations. And what kind of pictures are there? Hand-drawn artist sketches, printed pictures of family, right? How expensive are they? How cheap are they? All that kind of stuff. There's all kind of structures, right? And it gets really weird and wonderful. And I'm just looking at a Christmas tree here. It's like, what's Christmas tree got? Branches, trunk, decorations. What kind of decorations? Shiny ones, non-shiny ones, electricity ones, non-electricity, right? Everything. Once you get into this, you start seeing the actual architecture of the universe, you know, like the types of fruits. The biggest architect, the guy who kind of kicked off the whole thing was Charles Darwin, right? And his like theory of evolution, where he's talking about like how humans came out of monkeys and stuff and all that stuff. Like whether you believe it or not is it's actually very, he's like plotted the entire, you know, architecture of the living things, right? So it's kind of his two branches of the tree split up into vertebrates and invertebrates. Those are the two top branches. And vertebrates, I always get this wrong, but like one type of animal is the ones with backbones and the other one is non-backbones. So like an earthworm doesn't have a backbone, but a human has a backbone. And then you split up into insects, birds, and all that stuff, and it just kind of goes crazy. But you can plot all that into a mind map, and then you go like traverse through the entire universe of everything, and it's super powerful, right? That's what people then program these artificial intelligence systems from, and what's kind of machine learning and deductive systems and big data systems and so on. So yeah, that in itself is very, very powerful. Okay.
So I would love to read about it first. So tomorrow I would go through it and I'll get to know what IA is actually, and I'll get into details, and then I'll ask you questions when.
Sure. Yeah. So I always, like I say, you know, welcome questions. The more you can learn to ask questions, you know, the better it is for you, because that way you'll dig out more information from users, people, stakeholders, yourself, you know, and so on. It's like the question thing is, you know, Elon Musk would say something like, you know, for us to build a rocket to take things to the moon wasn't really that hard. The hardest thing was the right question to ask ourselves. Once we designed the right question, then everything else flowed on from there. It was coming up with the right question that was the hardest thing. So yeah, questions are hard because they are a real reflection of human intelligence. You know, it's not about knowing something, it's about knowing how to ask a right question. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, see you on Wednesday then.
See you on Wednesday.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, you have something to say?
I was just about to say, one thing is clear, I'm not going to get into information architecture. This is for sure.
Well, you know, like I think so one of the tasks that I would strongly recommend you also do whenever you get a chance to do this, which is to take a subject that you really love, whatever it is, right? And just plot it out in a mind map. You don't even have to use the software. You can just write it with hands, you know, so like whatever subject you love is, first bubble, then, you know, line out of that. What has it got? Where does it occur? How much do I love it? You know, all this kind of stuff. And you can plot out, you start actually seeing how deep you end up going into considerations of what it's made out of. Why do you care about it? All these kind of things, you know, and ask yourself questions about all those things, and then draw out correlations. Okay, so I love it because of this, and what has that got to do with this thing here? What's the relationship, right? And you start actually really understanding the thing much better. And more importantly, it's out of your head and on a piece of paper, so you can then pitch it and present it to your husband, and he's like, but that, I don't quite agree with that. That's correlated to that. And there's also this thing. And what about this? What about if we did this, you know? And so you start actually really ideating and exploring the theme. Yeah.
Okay. And please check the user journey. I would like to have comments on that that user journey and user flow documents, so that I'll work on it. That was pending from long ago, so I have totally forgotten about that.
Okay. All right, I will do. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay then.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.